What's up, you guys? Adam here with Anabolic Climbing, and today we are going to talk about what drugs rock climbers are taking in 2026. That's right. I've spoken to dozens and dozens of climbers, probably over 60 or 70 at this point, that have been on various substances ranging from anabolics to peptides to SARMs to everything else in between. And we're going to break it down. Who's taking what? What are they leaning toward? What age groups are gravitating toward what? So, if you guys like these exposés on what drug culture is looking like within the sport of rock climbing and extrapolating from some of these trends, please hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell. Helps the channel out tremendously. So, without further ado, let's actually break it down into three distinct categories because I think it matters. The first and foremost is going to be younger folks, really ages 18 to 27. These are the groups of people that have very distinct drug preferences from the second group, which is the older folks, really 28 plus, both in terms of spending power being a key difference and being a little bit more set in your ways, knowing a little bit what your goals are, being more committed to certain experiments. And lastly, some folks that are older but are afraid to jump off into the deep end. And we're going to go into each and every group. But let's start with the first group that we're going to talk about, and that is the 18 to 27-year-olds. So what are these folks into? Well, mostly peptides primarily. And there's a few reasons for this. Before we hop into the compounds themselves, a lot of these kids, and I'm going to say the term kids relatively loosely, but not so much, are not necessarily ready for some of the anabolics or things like TRT. They still have really good natural testosterone levels. They're still super healthy. They are, however, starting to pick up injuries, which you're going to notice really quickly with their compound selection. And also, they do want some sort of an edge. So these are guys that are looking to upregulate a little bit of stuff on the growth hormone axis, but they're not necessarily ready to take on some heavier duty compounds or things that'll give them something that'll require a longer post-cycle therapy. So because some of these kids have been climbing for years, they're trying to climb hard 5-6 days a week, definitely gravitating toward the healing peptides, particularly BPC 157 and TV 500. This has actually given us some of the experimentation that led to the leveraging of both of them for anti-inflammatory or for the anti-inflammatory properties during comps. It was really a couple of 19 and 21-year-olds that really started pioneering this protocol. Next up, there is the CJC 1295 with DAC, that being the compound that allows for longer secretion of the CJC 1295. Do I like CJC 1295 as a compound? No. I will stand by this position till the day I die that growth hormone secretagogues belong in the trash, and any self-respecting drug user should be using exogenous growth hormone rather than CJC 1295. But sourcing is an issue. And when you were younger and learning to get your first compounds, a lot of times you will go with what's available either because it's an ad on TikTok or on Instagram and you just want to get what's easily available. And CJC 1295, as much as I shit on it, and I will continue to shit on it a lot, it can do the job. It can give you a little bit more growth hormone expression than you otherwise would have. Am I a fan of this compound? No. Do I think it's superior to tesamorelin or ipamorelin? Yeah, probably. In general, I'm still not super impressed with it, but it will give you more GH expression. It will help you lose a little bit of fat, and it will improve collagen synthesis. Next up, though, as some of the kids do have a little bit more spending power, usually this is a mid-20s drug that I see, there are folks in my community that are starting to leverage growth hormone, and God bless them. I talk about this on this channel a lot, but growth hormone is the king of collagen synthesis. And while it may not necessarily be a performance driver on its own, its ability to increase your sleep, or help you lose some additional fat, and be able to build stronger tendons faster than any other compound, there's a reason why it has its place in rock climbing. I'm going to exempt the teenagers that have prescriptions to growth hormone, of which I know a couple. I consider that a medical profession and not, or a medical intervention and not recreational fun. But there are 20-somethings that are rocking some recreational GH, and I applaud you. Same thing with GHK Copper. As a community, I'm starting to see a couple of folks that are pinning it. I do think the wider group should be using it topically, particularly for flappers for skin repair. But we're going to know probably in the next 6 to 12 months whether GHKCU is a compound that is here to stay injectably or if it really just makes sense to run as a topical. And lastly is the first thing that I ever pinned, L-carnitine. Whether you're supplementing with oral L-carnitine or injectable, I think it's probably something worth considering, especially if you deal with chronic fatigue. Is it one of those things that's absolutely going to help? No, but carnitine kind of happens in one of two ways. Either it moves the needle for you, you have some sort of a deficiency, and it is pretty life-changing, or it doesn't do much for you, and you spend a couple bucks and you move on to the next compound. But for me, I don't take carnitine every day anymore, but I will take it for 2 or 3 days when I start to feel run down. And that's kind of the protocol that I've been running for a while. Next up, for the climbers that are older, this is where you start getting into compounds with more downside. This is where you will see things like steroids, things like SARMs, things with higher risk profiles. We're going to get into that later. But in the older climbers, particularly above the age of 30, mid-30s is where a lot of folks start getting on TRT. And as soon as you start pinning test, everything is kind of on the table. The main staples that I see of rock climbers taking hormones is probably testosterone, number one. But then it's kind of a mix. Most of the climbers that I have seen do tend to lean toward Anavar and Masteron. Of the folks that I know that leverage Mast, it is the compound of choice for peaking and for performance. I will say, I had a discussion with another coach this week, and I agree. Primobolan is the more sustainable compound. It's easier on the lipids. It's easier to measure. What I like about Primobolan is it acts as an aromatase inhibitor. So you can see in your blood work, is it getting my estrogen where it needs to be in line? Whereas for something like Masteron, it's a selective estrogen receptor modulator. So it limits the expression of estrogen. It doesn't limit estrogen. So it's a little harder to dial in. But in terms of mood, in terms of gym performance, me and a few other climbers find that we do more work on Mast. And, you know, it might be anecdotal, but I'm noticing a trend. I have seen climbers take EQ, funny enough, to summit Everest. I do know climbers that like Winstrol and swear by it. I'm not one of them. I've run Turinabol, and I know a couple of other climbers that have as well. Also, S-tier peaking compound. And Nandrolone, based off of the research we have so far, is probably the best in terms of driving collagen synthesis. However, I'm starting to see more and more data that the DHT derivatives may do more from driving collagen synthesis through the androgen receptor. So I want to keep an eye on that as more research develops. Next up, retatrutide is still criminally slept on in this community. I leverage the fuck out of it. I know a couple of climbers, particularly in the UK, that really got onto this early, but I am baffled how many climbers simply ignore this compound. For dieting to peak for a climb, or just in general, there is no better compound right now. Yes, Eli Lilly is working on a 5-receptor agonist, which is going to be wild. They're releasing the rodent data, I believe, in a month or two. Can't wait to get my hands on it. But for the time being, Reta is king of the mountain, and the fact that more folks aren't hip to it yet baffles me. Or they're just a little too hesitant to run it. Next up, I see a lot of older climbers starting to run SLU. Super, super encouraging. I've seen climbers even into their early 60s running SLU. Same with 5-AMINO-1MQ. As this is a cohort with more disposable income, GH is something that is on the table. And next up, also tadalafil is one of the mainstays. I think if you have, unless you have low blood pressure, tadalafil should probably be in your toolkit. But I do know a couple of climbers that I would consider more degenerate because, if I'm being honest, I'm a judgmental prick. But they are running both Cardarine and Ostarine. Cardarine is something that I'm paying more attention to as it has HDL benefits, which is really neat. It's one of the S-tier cardio boosters. The rat data was pretty brutal as far as cancer, but I have not seen that many cases of cancer from Cardarine in humans. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I just haven't seen it. And lastly, Ostarine. Guys, SARMs are dog shit. Don't run them. I know 2 climbers that really do enjoy Ostarine. I will poo-poo it, both because it competes for the androgen receptor with testosterone and other steroids, but second off, the post-cycle therapy from it is pretty burly, and recovering from it is kind of tricky. I don't recommend it. I will give this compound 2 thumbs down, even though I know a couple of climbers that love it for ballistic climbing. And last but not least, let's talk about the climbers that are afraid of taking needles. Should this be you? No. In my opinion, if you're not prepared to pin some of these compounds, they're probably not for you. I do not believe in oral-only cycles. Sure, I've made videos talking about could you run orals for 3 days and have minimal shutdown? Probably, but you could also get way more out of those orals with a testosterone base. Could you run something like Cardarine or Meldronium as your cardio booster? Sure. Could you run SLU-PP332 as a solo compound for your sport route or your big wall? Fuck yeah, you totally could. Should you do that with something like Ostarine or Anavar? No. But I know guys that are running Anavar. I know guys that are running 5-AMINO-1MQ and SLU-PP332 for fat loss, and they're having great results. Obviously, I am biased. I will say that if you're not ready to inject your drugs, you might not be ready for this lifestyle. But yeah, for some of the stuff like SLU or 5-AMINO-1MQ, if you're open to taking exogenous compounds with very sparse human data, apart from a handful of climbers, which is now probably up to 24 at this point, those are paths that you can try. Do I think other compounds are going to emerge later on in the year? Maybe. I haven't seen any new compounds outside of the stuff that I've discussed on the channel that I think climbers really need to get hip to, but I'm obviously always looking. To be honest, the more research I do, the more I kind of double down on the things that I have already chosen. But, you know, at this point, we're still very early in the pharmaceutical arms race that is really never ending. So as we learn more from the bodybuilding community, from the powerlifting community, from the arm wrestling community, I will let you know what things I'm seeing in rock climbing gyms across the country, and not just in things that I'm testing myself, and across the world for that matter. We are lucky enough in the Discord server to have community members really from like almost every major continent, which is fucking cool. And it's really interesting to see training and PED protocols from across the world. It's been super fun. Obviously, hop in there. It's in the description box below. But yeah, if you guys are enjoying hearing what compounds folks are running based off of age group, based off of preference, based off of what folks are speccing toward, please hit the like, subscribe, and alert. Helps the channel out tremendously. If you want to share your own experience, you can either drop it in the comments below or hop in the Discord and tell me personally. But yeah, as always, I am Adam with Anabolic Climbing. Wishing you guys good luck. Happy sending. Stay safe out there. Do not take drugs without some lab work. Code climbing from Anabolic Insights for 10% off. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.